Everyone here is so strange? Yeah, that was one of the big reasons we decided to build the school here. You'll see, your fellow students are also strange. This is a perfect place to not stand out. Nothing is as it seems. Today on the Comic Book Report, The Strange Academy Omnibus by Skottie Young and Humberto Ramos from Marvel Comics. Stick around and check it out. Greetings everyone, my name is Dominic and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today we are back in the world of Marvel Comics for a review I have honestly been really looking forward to sharing with all of you, and that's for this book here, The Strange Academy Omnibus. Now, before we take a look at this young, magic side of the Marvel Universe, I would just like to say a huge thank you to Organic Price Books for sending over this review copy in exchange for review. If you've never heard of OrganicPriceBooks.com, they are this channel's sponsor, and if you check out the link to their website, you can find it in this video's description, you can actually use my discount code at checkout with anything you see there. The discount code, of course, is the Comic Book Report. With that code, you'll save $2 off of your order. Please note if you use my affiliate link or code to make a purchase, I will earn a small commission, but it's probably the best way to support this channel. Thank you for considering. Now let's go ahead and get started with today's Marvel Omnibus review. First, some quick facts about today's collection. The comics in this collection were written by Skottie Young, with art from Humberto Ramos. The comics in this volume were published by Marvel Comics beginning in 2020. The volume itself collects Strange Academy, the 2020 series, issues 1 through 18, and Strange Academy Finals, the 2022 series, issues 1 through 6. And finally, this is an oversized hardcover edition with glossy print paper stock, a sewn binding, and a total of 592 pages. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and give a general spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the contents of today's collection and commenting on plot points throughout. You've been advised. Okay, and here's our first dedicated look at the front cover for today's Omnibus collection. I'll say right from the top that this is the standard edition cover for this release. There is also an alternative direct market cover. I'll throw up a quick thumbnail just for you to compare. I personally am fonder of the standard edition cover. I like that it's ornate and kind of looks like a book. Really like the framing of everything. I think it's a really great way to look at all the characters, although the Skottie Young variant is also quite fun, particularly for fans of his work, of course. Now, along the spine, we do, of course, have the Marvel Omnibus logo. We have the title of the collection, The Strange Academy. We have the creators there at the bottom, along with a little picture window, and they try to keep that sort of book motif going here on the spine. Honestly, I think it looks really good. The field on this is kind of an ivory or off-white. I really like it. The picture window might be a little different for the direct market cover, so please be advised on that. And of course, on the back cover of the dust jacket, we have the book little trappings continued, which I liked. A little blurb about the collection. We have some imagery from the work itself, a lot of the art from Humberto Ramos, which is exciting to see, really indicative of what you can expect interiorly. We also have what the edition collects, some pricing information, the Marvel logo again, things like that. Okay, and now that we've done that, I did want to spend one more minute on the dust jacket, but this time I will remove the dust jacket, so as I do that, I'll give you a look at the interior flaps. Now, the interior flaps add some written detail about the work and have bits about the creators, which I like. You get more of the kind of book edging as well. I really like the design for this dust jacket. I thought it was such a brilliant idea. It's fun that the book looks like a more old school kind of book. I love the framing. I love the artwork they chose. It works really well for me. Now, under the dust jacket itself, on the hardback book, the art we have printed I thought was also a really striking choice. They essentially look like a bunch of character models. We have some face profile shots and things like that. We do have the title reprinted on the hardback during the spine, as well as on the front cover of the hardback. But yeah, I just think that this is a really neat looking design, especially for fans of the art in this collection, of which I certainly am one. But yeah, really like the design here. Way to go, Marvel. Okay, now that we've done the exteriors, I did want to go ahead and show a quick look at the sewn binding for this omnibus. And as you'll see, I think that this book is pretty well bound. We actually have a little bit of yellow or gold in the actual ribbon of the binding, which I thought was a really novel choice for this collection in particular. My pages laid down fairly flat. There was perhaps a little bit of gutter loss, but nothing too critical on my end. And with that, we can go ahead and keep this going. Okay, and as we open today's collection, we have some beautiful end pages, followed by a title page for Strange Academy with some of the character models there. After that, we are treated to essentially a character listing, but it's in the form of a school yearbook, which I loved. After that, we have another title page. This time it has the creators and kind of the breakdown on that end, some publication information, and then we jump right into issue 1 of Strange Academy. So as we start making our way into this series, let me just set the table a little bit before we go deeper into the review. So for those that don't know, if you're going in completely blank slate, what is Strange Academy? How it was pitched to me, premise-wise, was that it was basically like a Harry Potter Hogwarts situation meets X-Men First Class. It's essentially a young school for the kind of gifted or magic users within the Marvel Universe. I heard that comparison, and now having read this omnibus, I think that that is an extremely apt way to describe it. I will also add that this was a fun way to introduce new, younger characters into the Marvel Universe while still feeling like you're immersed in that broader universe. One of the things I really liked about this series is that a lot of the children here I think were created for this very series, but they have ties to other characters in the Marvel Universe, many of which are children of some of Marvel's villains even. We have a child that seems to be the child of a frost giant and is a frost giant himself. We have a son of Dormammu here. We have a son or two of the Enchantress from the Thor franchise, and so on and so on. We not only have these amazing children characters, but we actually have amongst the staff at Strange Academy a couple really familiar faces in the faculty there. Of course, we have the headmaster being Doctor Strange himself, the Sorcerer Supreme, but we also have characters like Brother Voodoo and Hellstrom and Magic and more. I really liked this. Like I said, it was a fun way to introduce us to this more mystical side of the Marvel Universe while also being very palatable to brand new audiences or people that maybe haven't bought into the rest of the Marvel Universe but want something like younger and more energetic and just fun. Now, this series was written by Skottie Young, who I know more notably as an artist rather than a writer, but his writing has really been coming a lot more recently. I've started to come across more that he's written that's also really, really well done. But yeah, I usually love his art style. Like, I know I recently did an overview for the Oz Omnibus, and he was a lead artist on that. But yeah, he's playing writer here, and he's doing a fantastic job. The writing in this book, I think, is so strong. The art, though, from Humberto Ramos is really, really incredible. I think that those two together are such a great synergistic team. The storytelling feels hand in hand, and you just have such a singular effect reading this book. So as we make our way into this collection, let me talk a little bit more about what it covers and what we're doing here. So it does have the whole first run or series on Strange Academy, those first 18 issues, along with the 6 issues of Strange Academy Finals, which serve as the sort of final act for this run or this series, which is basically the first year at the Strange Academy. Now, I have been told that this does not include the field trip issues that I think were one-shots. I'm not really sure why those aren't included here. I have not personally read those issues, and I don't really feel like I'm missing out on anything narrative-wise. We have a very, very complete story here in many ways. I would have loved to have bonus issues. This is a smaller omnibus coming in at under 600 pages, but who knows? Maybe we'll see it expanded one day or some kind of sequel omnibus. But yeah, right now, this, again, collects the whole main first run series, the finals mini-series, and this really comprises the first year at Strange Academy. But yeah, we follow a character initially named Emily Bright. She manifests these kind of magical powers, and it almost kills her or turns against her at one point. Before long, she's basically picked up by someone from Strange Academy and invited to join the school. She has a meeting with her parents and basically says this would be the safest place for her. So we follow this kind of mentoring figure along with Emily to this interesting world. And what I mean by interesting world is they go to Bourbon Street in New Orleans, because that is actually where the Strange Academy is located. Admittedly, it is a bit mystically disguised or hidden, but when we have her introduced to the school, she can see it before her, and it's all there, the grounds and everything. And that's where she walks into a much wider world. She meets a lot of her classmates, like Doyle Dormammu. We have a couple citizens of Asgard. We have a frost giant. We have a fairy, people from Otherworld or Weird World, and this is a really eclectic, fun group of characters. Now, the character roster is pretty stacked here, as it is a full, like, kind of classroom situation. It's definitely an ensemble cast, but I was really impressed and happy to say that by a couple issues in, I definitely started to settle into the primary cast of characters here, and I think that they were all utilized very effectively. The first couple issues essentially introduce you to the world of Strange Academy. Again, these characters, but also their classes. We get to see them practicing different spells or magics, learning about the world and the more mystical side of things. We even have an appearance by Doctor Strange at the end of the first issue as he comes through and is battling something, and it's just a really striking, fun introduction. Something else I'll say about this omnibus collection, as you've seen, we start each issue with a reproduction of the virgin cover of each issue. We have a little number on it, and then the issues actually end with a kind of fun expositional page that has something to do with the world of Strange Academy, like a permission slip for a field trip, or some fun extracurricular activity that was going on at Strange Academy. And again, it's just kind of a fun, cheeky way to end every issue. I really like that. I felt it helped with the immersion. I love that we got to see all the covers as we went through this book as well. But yeah, going back to the narrative side of things, as the story progresses, the main lead character in this ensemble is that Emily Bright character. We have her powers being kind of characterized as really strong, if a bit unfocused, but she's learning along with the rest of her classmates. We have some classmates that are a bit more stigmatized, like Doyle Dormammu. Everyone looks at him through the context of the son of a villain, kind of not really getting a chance to know him and kind of writing him off. Pretty much all of them except Emily, who begins to kind of crush on him and vice versa. There is a sweet and budding romance throughout most of the series between those two characters. We also find ourselves endeared to a lot of these other classmates. We get to see them break down into roommates and just have all sorts of high school-like drama and mishaps and conflicts, triumphs and tragedies, and I thought that that was really fun and engaging. It was fun to see a kind of high school set series again. It's been a while since I've really gone through something like that. I know I reviewed The Woods recently. Perhaps that was the last time I really went into a high school set kind of series, but I liked it. I think that the voices felt very true for that age demographic, at least by my reading. I also loved, again, their relationship with a lot of the staff at Strange Academy. Something else that goes on in the background of the series that I thought was interesting was some of their confrontation with Doctor Strange himself, who is always busy doing other things. Emily begins to harbor some doubt with how he handles the students, more like he just keeps so much from them. There's also even a question that all these characters are able to use magic so much more freely on the grounds of Strange Academy than they would in their regular day-to-day lives. When questioned about that, Doctor Strange says, "We paid the price, don't worry about that." But as you go through, you realize that a deal has been struck to help train up this next generation of magic wielders. But again, it's not necessarily nefarious, but it does have some more nuance as you make your way through the collection. We also have some confrontations with some local magic users in the city of New Orleans. They're sort of practicing magic users that are much more villainous in origin. There's a character that basically has a prophecy saying someone in this group will basically end the world almost, and someone else will stop them, and everyone believes it's Doyle Dormammu, and you have that kind of hanging over everyone's head as this kind of ticking clock. When is this going to happen? Is someone in this class or multiple people going to break bad, and how can you stop that? We have one child kind of get overcome by his jacket, which is invaded by an evil, kind of malevolent, magical creature that just eats his despair and anger and stuff, and that was really fun. We have the teammates trying to kind of rescue him and save him. We have another character that seems to be made of crystal that may or may not be the son of Man-Thing. That character gets shattered and has to be repaired, and it ends up getting into this whole mystery arc where they bring in Howard the Duck as a private investigator trying to solve the mystery. We have a fun field trip to Asgard, which I really liked, and there was even kind of a homecoming or winter formal dance event that we had a moment with Emily Bright and Doyle Dormammu, and Dormammu basically asking her out, and it's all sweet, but this is the moment in the series where things really begin to change a bit. Essentially, he is stood up and doesn't get to go to the dance because she helps a classmate. It leads to further compounding conflicts. This is all after Emily helps save Dormammu's life after another whole issue with these creepy things in the woods known as the Hollow. We've had a couple interventions from the staff trying to save the students at different points. We have one student who is a zombie who's had dealings with this other dark magic user who's lurking in the background and ensnares maybe another impressionable youth. But again, everything kind of culminates and comes to a head when one of the students is expelled. Emily feels very strongly against this and finally kind of rebels against the school, stages a walkout, and a good portion of the class decide to go with her. We find out at one point in the series, too, she has a ring that has a piece of Dormammu to help her with the magic she accidentally absorbed going into the dark dimension earlier in the run. We find out at this point in the series, though, that she is being corrupted by this presence, and now we realize that she is actually this ultimate evil, and that Doyle Dormammu, her once kind of love interest, is going to have to stop her. And that really brings us into the Strange Academy finals, which is kind of, again, that third act, the final sort of skirmish between these factions of characters. Another issue I left out was we had a moment where during one of the classes, Doyle gets transported into the future, and we see kind of an alternate future version of a lot of the classmates here. I really liked that issue. I wish we got more within that world. It reminded me a bit of Days of Futures Past, that X-Men storyline. But anyway, a lot of fun issues here. As you can tell, I'm kind of jumping around. I am cherry picking some of my favorite issues, but there's honestly so many fun stories in this collection. But going back to the plot again, we have the final battle ensue between Emily and Doyle. Their romance clearly soured at this point, but ultimately we do have the side of right succeeding. We have Doyle absorbing all of the negative magic, and when he is about to be corrupted or kind of explode under the weight of power, it is kind of siphoned off of him, and the day is saved, but Emily has teleported elsewhere. Also in this final battle, one of their classmates unfortunately loses his life. It's a grim and kind of bleak ending, honestly, but he is memorialized with a statue on campus, and the rest of the crew essentially graduate their first year at Strange Academy. But that is really where the series narratively leaves off. And I'll say right here that while I did think this was a conclusive omnibus that gave us a great first year in this whole world, I am just chomping at the bit for these creators to return for a year 2 of Strange Academy. I do know that they have done a Doom Academy that takes some of these characters, but I believe it's a different creative team, and I'm not sure if that series is still ongoing or not. Who knows what the future may hold, but I would love to revisit this world, as I felt this to be such a fun and refreshing read. Pivoting over now to the art from Humberto Ramos, this was just such a striking selling point as well for this run. I thought the art was engaging, fantastical, a bit animated and cartoony in the best way possible, and I really feel like it served these characters well. I was so immersed in this read-through, and I think the art direction was a huge part of that. The fact that we have him as the artist all the way throughout means that we didn't really have a break in the immersion, at least in my reading. Really just solid stuff. I always love when we have one creative team through an entire run like this. It was a real treat. A couple more notes about the Strange Academy run here before we reach the back of this omnibus. I just really think one of the most excellent parts about this book, other than this gorgeous art again from Ramos, is the characterization, which is obviously equal parts writing and illustration here in a visual medium like comics. But I think that the writing in particular, the dialogue is done so well, and with such a huge cast of characters, the fact that each of these characters had such a unique and nuanced voice, it's just really interesting to me and compelling. I loved these characters. It didn't take long for me to be endeared to basically all of them. And as conflicts arose throughout this run, I felt myself affected as maybe relationships fell through or friendships were made or fostered. I was rooting for these characters, and I felt like I was caught in with some of the drama one time, and I think that that was a mark of just how successful this series was executed, at least to my reading. I will say that as this series was coming out, I know it was collected, I believe, in a digest paperback format at one point. Then they had longer collections that might have been hardcover, and I kind of passed up these opportunities to pick it up. I wasn't sure if this series would be for me or not. I heard so many positive rave reviews. I really do like the workable Skottie Young and Humberto Ramos that I've encountered thus far, but I still didn't really leap to check it out, and the fact that I had an opportunity to finally get to this series, I'm kind of judging myself for not reading it sooner. It was just such a fun ride. I can certainly appreciate that a run like this might not be for everyone. If you don't like the more mystical, magical kind of fantasy spaces in fiction, this might not be for you. Similarly, if you don't like stories that have high school based characters, this might be skippable as well. But I think beyond that, this is really a fun read for, I think, a bigger audience. I did think that this was really surprising at times and engaging just all the way through. I really like that you also don't need to know much about the Marvel Universe or any of these characters to really enjoy it. There's so many character introductions in this series, and I think Skottie Young and Humberto Ramos just do a great job of just bringing you into the world and giving you all the details you need. Certainly, if you are a broader fan of the Marvel Universe, you will enjoy some of the cameos or inclusions, especially in that broader supporting cast of characters. But again, this is just a very accessible read. Now, at the back of the omnibus, we do have a bit of an afterword by a lot of the series creators. It kind of reads out like an essay, which is fun. You get to see kind of notes by everyone there. And then after that, we have an extensive cover art gallery, variant cover art gallery, which for such an art-heavy collection, I loved how extensive this gallery was at the back of the book. It helped pad out this already small omnibus quite well. And yeah, overall, really happy with this. Again, I would have loved to see whatever those one-shots or field trip issues were about. But short of that, I think that this was just a fantastic omnibus. But those are just a couple of my thoughts on the Strange Academy omnibus, and now all that's left to do is to give this book a grade. For one of the most gorgeous and just entertaining comic book collections I've read in recent memory, the Comic Book Report is happy to give The Strange Academy Omnibus by Skottie Young and Humberto Ramos from Marvel Comics an A-. This was such a blast. I really enjoyed my time from cover to cover. Loved the extras at the back. It was great reading a little bit of an afterword and seeing all that extra art collected in the form of the variant covers. Really great character-driven story here. Again, I could just keep talking about this series, and I likely will in future videos, but that's just my thoughts on Strange Academy. I'd love to hear yours in the comments. Have you read this series? Are you a fan of Skottie Young or Humberto Ramos? I would love to hear that, maybe some other comic book recommendations from either of them, and yeah, just let me know your thoughts. I'd be really interested in that. Like I mentioned at the top, this was an omnibus I couldn't wait to review, and now I have. I hope you've enjoyed it. Again, a huge thank you to Organic Price Books, and until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Please don't forget to leave your like and those comments we talked about, and maybe check out another one of my videos on your way out. Thanks, bye.